Abbott and Costello Meet the Poet, playing off the famous series of films, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, the
It uses Abbott and Costello as an into the relationship with your father, or at least the narrator's father. And it is an example of what we were talking about earlier about enjambment, and how many of these lines mean different things apart from the sentences. So if you go to line 6 and you go together, all the people they would meet, all the adventures they would have, all the routines they would play down packed. These are things that when you read them, you get different ideas from it that are outside of the narrative if you just parse it down to sentences. There's also one great long line in here too that allows you to talk about different asides in it, and then it eventually returns back into your relationship with the father, or again, the narrator's relationship with the father. There's similar things like the poem A Dream of My Dad, which is able to talk about personal aspects of your life, but it connects it to deeper ideas. It's not simply personal anecdotes in service to yourself or as self-expression. It's personal anecdotes in service to the art always.
Yeah, the starting from In My Dad till the next commercial. This is an old typewritten poem. It would be more obvious that because if you look at the enjambments, they're never like grown us of. Those aren't. That's really not enjambed. That's just that's a prose poem in the middle. So if this was in a smaller font, the breaks would be elsewhere. So anyone in the future should know that. But yeah, this is taking, and it's got the epigraph from The Comedian is the Letter C by Wallace Stevens, and basically it's about the relationship between particularly me and my dad, but it could be anyone here. The grasp of this poet with hands strung out of his feud. The lone thing I embraced, the meld of my dad's life with laughter interludes, so much so you could never discern when the others ended. And then I do that a couple of times a few times in some poems where I have the merging of characters in one way or another. But yeah, I mean this is another poem that's
such a interesting subject to use as fodder for a poem to Abbott and Costello. Most poets only speak in philosophies like Whitman and Robson Jeffers, and even Crane and Wallace Stevens are always talking about these airy subjects. But Abbott and Costello is more pop culture. There's also a series on The Odd Couple, either from Jack Lemmon or Tony Randall, that go in different directions. If you had a poet that wrote on a character played by the same actor, you would have almost the same similar tropes and the same narrative devices, but those two poems could almost be written by different poets.
Well, this too, even though it's not on a surface level, the Abbott and Costello Meet the Poet is also, well, it looks like it's a poem and into a personal relationship, but it's also an ekphrastic poem because of the title. It's not just Abbott and Costello meant something to me and my dad. It's called Abbott and Costello Meet the Poet. So you have the use of titles that were used in a series of their films that they did when their popularity was waning, and then I tie that back to these deep ideas. Man is the intelligence of his soil, the sovereign ghost, as such, the Socrates of snails. So what does that have to do with Wallace Stevens? Well, I'm not going to state that directly. I mean, there's more going on here than just the father figure and the son figure watching old Abbott and Costello movies. But why don't other people do these kinds of things? Or if they do, the rare times that you'll see a poet do that, usually it's some dry intellectual piece of shit that
John Ashbery is a good example of using pop culture in his poetry very, very badly.
Yeah, and using it so obviously. I mean, just look
and not very in a very dilettante manner. That Daffy Duck poem is an example of just jizz on a page.
Yeah, and I have no problem mixing high and low art within poetry or whatnot, but I'm not going to just contain the high art within the high art and the low art within the low art. You're going to mix and match and put them in different ways that we're not even talking about high art and low art. It's just art and great art, hopefully.